Jonathan, firstly, let's just start at the beginning. Is it the job of the Broadcasting Standards Authority to formulate or indeed suggest what laws we should have around broadcasting? I thought they were an enforcement and monitoring agency, not a policy development agency.
Well, certainly they argued that it is their job, and one of their functions is to conduct research that looks at the expectations that New Zealanders have around broadcasting standards. So that's what they're claiming they're doing here. But really, I think this is all becoming a little bit boring, Sean. It seems there's this very ideological, very institutional perspective to simply say that everyday Kiwis having their say, having open discourse, it is becoming more and more common. It's the on vogue view to suggest that it's dangerous, that it's harmful, and that it simply shouldn't be allowed. And in many ways, I'm not surprised by that, Sean. Free speech is the exception, not the rule across society. It's just really unfortunate that in a free society like New Zealand that is egalitarian and is democratic, that we are falling prey to the same temptations that so many other societies have. And where this leads us is more authoritarian, and it leads us to more violence.
All right. The BSA too, and I think Juliet Moses from the New Zealand Jewish Council said, isn't this odd? They didn't ask Jewish people of the Jewish faith, about their concerns about hate online or how minorities are treated. They seem to be quite specific about who they decided were part of diverse communities.
Well, I'm not exactly sure how they've gone about with this composition. It appears to me to be a self-selecting sample, which means there was probably a link online somewhere circulated amongst a couple of hundred people, and we think that this now forms a representation as long as they came from the right communities. You'll also notice that left-handed Canadians over 6 foot aren't represented very well either. And that's the thing with identity politics, that once you start dividing people into these samples that don't necessarily tell us very much about ourselves, then you start excluding people more than you're including them. And so I would say that we've really seen this as just part of a zeitgeist at the moment. There's just this beat down on big, bad free speech, and it is coming from a really elitist condescension, really. And I think it's unfortunate. When I came to New Zealand 10 years ago, one of the things I knew about New Zealand was that it was an egalitarian society that valued people living together alongside each other with a sense of fairness. And I would say that at the heart of that is the ability for people to speak their mind and share their opinions. And if we see organisations like the BSA, I would suggest stepping beyond their lane, being wannabe censors, banging that drum. Before long, it'll bite them, where.
Yeah. Jonathan, also interesting, they did clearly, as a government or statutory body, they did some sort of exclusivity deal with Stuff to release this research, which I highly question. They will not now speak to it. We did try to organise Stacey Wood, the chief executive, coming on here this morning to give the briefings that they're offering to communities to our audience, and they wouldn't. In fact, Ben, what did they say yesterday? Basically rack off?
Yeah, pretty much. They declined our first request and then haven't replied to my request that they deliver their findings to the studio.
Okay. So clearly, Jonathan, too, they are being, and also they talked about a conference, some conference on a marae last year hosted by Stuff that I never got an invite to. I actually tried to get an invitation to it and I was told I didn't qualify. So it really seems to me this is quite gross overreach, Jonathan, by the BSA, who are almost becoming political or cultural activists rather than an authority doing what the government decides.
It does have that impression, doesn't it? And I'd suggest that if that is their approach, the leader of that organisation will regret it before long. These sorts of organisations do not fare well. Just ask the Human Rights Commission when they start picking and choosing whose basic rights they protect and which rules they play by when it comes to their core function. And just going back to the report there, Sean, I think kind of the farcical narrative that is being presented there, I wonder, do they even expect to be taken seriously? Or is it just adding cannon fodder to put out there, this along with a host of other organisations that's peppering the discourse with these sorts of lines? I mean, the report says that voicing particular viewpoints and exposure to controversial perspectives are problematic and quote, harmful. Now, in a document, I think it was about a 60-page document, not a single attempt to define what the word harmful it is. We just either get it or we don't. And if we get it, we're part of the goodies. And if we don't get it, well, we're the problem, aren't we? It also equates exposure to offensive and controversial perspectives with discriminatory ones. And I just think, again, there's very little actually reflective thought that has gone into this. I mean, I would suggest that controversial or offensive perspectives, I mean, you dare say something and someone might find it controversial or someone might find it offensive. That's quite different from presenting a case that is arguing that individuals should be treated differently. And even still, discrimination is an action, not an opinion. But use the word discrimination, use the word discriminatory, and it provokes that inner sense of fairness that we care about in societies. And I think that's how they think they want to get people on board. And so they say all views should be respected. All speech should be respected. Well, actually, I don't think views should be respected. I think people should be respected. There's lots of views that I don't think should be respected. But here's the skullduggery, I think, because they actually don't think all views should be respected either. There's lots of views every day of the week that they say shouldn't be respected. So they're saying all views, all speech should be respected, but they need a way to create two categories out of this. So then all views should be respected, except if they don't agree with the views. Then those aren't actually
No, Jonathan, maybe it works like this. All views should be respected, but some just shouldn't be aired or heard.
Well, I think that they create two categories, and you've got views on one side, and the other isn't even views, it's just hate speech. And so you then characterise everything you disagree with this broad brush, let's not discuss it at all, hate speech. And it kind of reminds me of George Orwell's all animals are equal, just some animals are more equal
all speech
than others,
is equal,
right?
some is more equal than others. They also seem in this report to be arguing to create some sort of strategy to save what they define as the news media, which is mainly legacy media. And I thought actually there is an answer in the report, and that is if people are turning off legacy media because they don't like the offensive things it does, commercial reality will correct this without government intervention. The market will speak as to what sort of news people want to have and are comfortable with.
Yeah, I would say this report is worth about as much as the paper it's written on. You look at the questions that...
Must be very nice paper, Jonathan.
I would suggest it's about 2-ply.